welcome the independent candidate for the Senate, Damien Richardson.
Thanks, Melbourne. Fantastic to be here. So many things passing through my mind. There's so many things I could talk about. What I would really like to talk about, though, is that day in November last year when I just saw a sea of people flooding into the Flagstaff Gardens. Hundreds and thousands of us standing up for our right and our liberty. Liberties have been taken away from us from the draconian measures of governments of whatever persuasion. Please don't give me your Liberal or your Labor. One of them's blue and one of them's red. And if you mix them both together, you get the colour purple. And that's the colour they all should be wearing because they're the same party. There's not a two-party preferred system. It's a uni-party system. And it turns out purple is the colour of the AEC. The bureaucracy that rules over them and the bureaucracies that rule over all of us. So what are we going to do? What point are we at in history? We've been taken over. Globalism's already here. The corporations already own us. And we have to fight back. And I'm not going to give you any glib answers and glib slogans. You know, I'm not going to tell you about my marginal interest rate policy because I don't have one. And what's the point when the Bolsheviks are in the building? Or the globalists? How are we going to tip them out? You know, and it's great to see here today there's some confusion between the groups and another group want to kick on, you know what I mean? And you know who wanted to kick on in that group? The young men. And good on them. Because where have they been? We need our masculinity. We need masculinity to stand up. And it's been undermined by the cultural Marxists, as far as I'm concerned, for over 50 years. That's why we're at this point now, at this juncture. So we can thank COVID for slipping the moorings of insanity so badly that finally we're standing up for ourselves. Yeah. Yeah. And I heard someone mention that little leprechaun, Adam Bant. The purveyor of identity politics, because that's all they've got. Identity politics, which is rubbish. And it was designed exactly to divide us. First it divided us between men and women, then it divided us between race, and now they've found this thing called gender. And they're going to divide us between gender as well. When I was growing up it was called sex. But then suddenly you weren't allowed to say it anymore. Sex was an act, but gender was a concept, more important than sex. And if you didn't say it, you were wrong. You had transgressed some cultural norm and some new narrative that I never even knew existed. And it was coming to us from on high. So who's attacking us now? It's the globalists? Is it the WHO? Tedros? Is it an avowed Marxist? Is it the UN? The WEF? All of them. Exactly right. And it's a big undertaking. The forces arrayed against us are huge. And what they want to do is they want to demoralise us. And they demoralise us through the use of language. Marxism 101. That's how they attack us. Through the use of language. And everyone says to me, what are you going to do about the, the Woods Royal Commission when you get into the Parliament? What are you going to do with those 28 suppressed names? Well, I tell you what. I rang Senator Bill Heffernan and I left a message on his machine. Doing due process to find out, to get the bottom, what better than to ask that man. But the reality is, We need due process. Because we've seen what has happened when we are not offered due process. Every time I come to these things, I walk with people and I can't keep up with the pack because I get stuck with people telling me about what has happened to them, how they have been denied due process by the institutions they felt would protect them, by the institutions that no longer protect them and no longer protect any of us because they've been undermined culturally from within. So we have to fight back. But I don't want to... I don't want to see a guillotine built out the front of the steps of Parliament. Because we've seen that in history before, and if they build one, they're eventually going to come for us as well. But I'll tell you what they are doing with the pedophiles, and I know they're trying to normalise it. And they normalise it through language. I've got 3 children, and all of them have come and said to me at some point in time, oh, they're not pedophiles anymore, Dad. You know what they call them? MAP. Minor attracted person. That's to take the sting out of the crime. And nothing takes the sting out of that crime. But that's what we're fighting against. They've undermined the culture for so long, they've demoralised us. But we cannot afford to be demoralised. And I know the common law group, I know they like to talk about devolving from the system. There's a whole bunch of guys just gone off saying we're not going to vote anyway. Well, I tell you what, I've been on the polls, I've been at the pre-polling stations, and the Labor and Liberal minions are still voting, the Greens minions are still voting, and the Socialists, who are the worst out of the lot, they're all still voting as well. So if you want to ensure more tyranny, devolve from the system at this juncture right now, and we'll be left where we are at this point with nothing. We had the biggest protest movement in the history of the country. Notwithstanding the Vietnam moratorium, bigger than that. Now the Vietnam moratorium was obviously approved by the status quo because it was reported on. So what's happened to those news hounds that wanted to find the story no matter what? They couldn't find 500,000 Victorians gathered 4 weekends in a row. So what does that tell us about the culture? Where we're at? What threat does that make you feel under? Because I tell you what, it makes me feel really threatened that it's that desperate and that sick and that corrupt. So my offer to you people, because everyone's pushing back in their own way, my offer to you people is to be your representative as a senator in the federal parliament. I have no political affiliation, I'm not aligned with any party, I'm standing on my merits as an independent so I can be a disruptive influence. They're not going to want to hear that. They're going to want to hear about my marginal policy on tax rates. But we know something else. We know something other. So if you people want change, it's up to us. It's up to us to be politically motivated to make that change, to demand that change from a system that didn't even want to hear us. Whatever he said. And it's good. It's good that we're still laughing. Because they're so sanctimonious, you say the wrong thing and you want to kill your grandmother. Or you don't like homosexuals. Or you're a racist, you're a homophobe, you're whatever. It's all bullshit. It's all lies. They've stolen humour from the Australian people. Well, let's put it back in the centre. Let's put me in there and I'm going to take the piss out of all of them. And it won't be very hard because they're doing a good job already. Someone came up to me today, and I just have to tell these stories. Someone came up to me from Warragul and they said, we're here for our daughter Because our daughter took the jab over 6 months ago and she hasn't been able to use her arm ever since. Now, of course, they're just hideous neo-Nazi anti-vaxxers, but that's where we're at. Your experience is no longer your experience. You can't have your experience, even though your experience is still your experience. How are we supposed to stay sane in this world? How are we supposed? This is what they do. This is cultural Marxism. Undermine us all. But we need to stay focused, and we need to keep our sanity, and we need to keep our mental clarity. And we have to do it by continuing to speak out. We can't be silenced. And I tell you, they're not going to silence me. The only way they're going to silence me is when they put me in a box. And let's face it, it's not beyond them. It's not beyond them at all. We're at a really dangerous juncture in our culture, in our nation's history. We're fighting a war, and it's not a war we've ever fought before, because it's a war that they're attacking us from within. All the cultural institutions are gone. No one gets support. They want to take their claims to fair work, like this family, this teacher who can't use her arm anymore and who cannot teach anymore, even though she's taken the vaccine, because she's immobilised. Fair work. What do they say? Nothing. Take your booster. It's not good enough, guys. Honestly. That's the One Nation guy. Trying to undermine me. It's good. It's great to see all these freedom fighters. It's great to see all these people here. I want to encourage people. I'm talking to Ryan. Where are you, Ryan? He's the guy who's getting around with the Dan Andrews ears on, right? Now, let's face it. Ryan's going to be out of a job come November. So, I think we need to support him. He's going to put a show on in the Fringe Festival, and he's calling it the Far Right Wing Anti-Vaxxers Comedy Hour. It's beholden on all of us to go and see Ryan's show. And of course, he's not going to put it in the Fringe Festival program, because they wouldn't print it anyway. And I didn't say that to him, he said it to me, because he knows. He knows. We all know the juncture we're at in history. And I knew it because I spent many a time in green rooms, trying to be an actor, trying to read the cultural Marxism in every single script I got. Even if it was a script that was a love scene, I'd still read it somewhere where I would have to be an idiot, a bigger idiot than even all the other idiots in the show, because I was a white Western male. There's one guy down there that agrees with me. I should have finished a minute ago. Anyway, guys, honestly, get motivated. If you're interested in voting for me for change, you know, everyone's talking about, oh, they game the system. How do you know it's even going to be a fair and honest election? I don't know if they're using the Dominion machines or not, but they've gamed the system before that anyway, because if you want to vote for me, have a look at my how to vote card. I'm in column B. Apparently that's a fantastic position to get for all the donkey votes. Okay, great. But the reality is, I have no insignia next to my name. I don't even have my name next to my name. But the political parties, they're allowed to have a name next to their name. That seems okay, that's fair, but I'm not. So trust it. When you get in that voting booth and you look in column B and you see a blank box, put a 1 in it, because it's the one that will vote for me. I'm at pre-polling. I've been at the pre-polling in Pascoe Vale. Anyone wants to come down and say good day, I'll be there again next week. They all know, because I say it to them. Liberal and Labor, they know, and they just hang their heads in shame, because that's all they can do. But it's not good enough. So if we want change, vote 1, vote for an independent voice in the Senate at this coming federal election, because I tell you, they're still going to be enforcing laws that tyrannise us come May 21, and it's going to be backed up by the power and the weapons of the state. So let's at least have a voice at the table. Thanks, guys. Join us today.
Put your hands together for Damien Richardson. And we definitely do need some good independence in the Senate.
Spoken by D. Richardson, authorised by D. Richardson, Melbourne.